Welcome. This is Cheating Facts, real accounts of deception and justice. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from. My name is Trevor, and I share true stories of betrayal and the paths to justice that followed. What I'm about to tell you happened to me 2 years ago, and it's a story about how the two people I trusted most in the world systematically destroyed that trust while planning to take everything I'd worked for. 5 years ago, I started a commercial real estate investment firm with my best friend from college, Derek. We'd always talked about going into business together, and after working separate corporate jobs for years, we finally took the leap. I handled acquisitions and client relationships. Derek managed operations and finance. We were partners, 50-50 on everything. More than that, we were brothers. He was the best man at my wedding. My wife, Vanessa, and Derek's wife, Michelle, became close friends. We did couples dinners every month. Our lives were intertwined. The business grew faster than we'd expected. Within 3 years, we'd built a portfolio worth $8 million. Year 4 was our breakthrough. We landed a major institutional investor and suddenly had access to deals we'd only dreamed about. That's when everything started changing, though I didn't recognize it at the time. The success meant longer hours. I was traveling 3 days a week, meeting with property managers, touring sites, negotiating with sellers. Derek stayed back managing operations, which made sense given his role. Vanessa seemed supportive of my travel schedule. She'd always been independent, working as a marketing consultant from home, managing her own clients. She never complained about my absences. Looking back now, I can pinpoint exactly when things shifted. It was April, about 18 months ago. We'd just closed on our biggest deal, a 12-unit apartment complex in a developing neighborhood. Derek suggested we celebrate with a weekend planning retreat, just the two partners, to map out our expansion strategy. Vanessa encouraged me to go, said I deserved it after working so hard. We spent that weekend at a resort 2 hours away, golfing, drinking, planning our future. Derek seemed different that weekend, distracted, checking his phone constantly. When I asked if everything was okay with Michelle, he got defensive, said everything was fine, just work stress. I dropped it. When I got home, Vanessa seemed different too, more attentive than usual, asking detailed questions about the weekend, about Derek specifically. Did he seem happy? Was he talking about Michelle? I thought she was just being a concerned friend, worried about their marriage. The signs were everywhere, but I was blind. Derek started dressing better, hitting the gym more seriously. He'd mentioned conversations with Vanessa about marketing ideas for the business, times they'd grabbed coffee to discuss branding while I was traveling. He bought a new cologne, the same one Vanessa had told me she liked on me. The first crack in my reality came in October. I came home early from a site visit because the seller had cancelled. My flight landed at 2 in the afternoon instead of 6. When I pulled into our driveway, Vanessa's car was gone. I checked her location on our shared family app, something we'd set up years ago for safety, not surveillance. She was across town at an address I didn't recognize. I called her. She answered slightly breathless, said she was at a new yoga studio trying a class. I could hear music in the background, but it didn't sound like yoga music. She said she'd be home in an hour. I told her I'd landed early and suggested we grab dinner. There was a pause, then she said that sounded great. She walked in 90 minutes later wearing the same clothes she'd had on that morning. Jeans and a sweater, not workout clothes. When I mentioned it, she said she'd changed. At the studio and back again. Because she didn't want to drive. Home in sweaty clothes. Reasonable explanation. But something felt off. I started paying attention. Really paying attention. Derek began taking personal calls outside the office, stepping into the parking lot when his phone rang. Vanessa's phone was suddenly password protected when it had never been before. She said she'd enabled it after reading an article about identity theft. When I traveled, she'd text me, "Good night" earlier than usual, always by 9 p.m. Then wouldn't respond to messages until morning. The business was thriving. But Derek started pushing for changes to our partnership agreement. He wanted to restructure our profit distribution, suggested we formalize exit provisions. Talked about what would happen if one partner needed to buy out the other. His reasoning made sense. We were growing, needed proper legal structures. But the timing felt strange. I'm not proud of what I did next, but something in my gut screamed that I was missing something critical. I bought a small GPS tracker, the kind people use for elderly parents or teenage drivers. One morning in December, while Vanessa was in the shower, I attached it to her car, hidden in the wheel well. For a week, nothing unusual appeared. Grocery store, coffee shops, her regular spots. Then on Thursday afternoon, while I was supposedly on a site visit 3 hours away, a trip Derek had strongly encouraged me to take, the tracker showed Vanessa's car at an address I recognized immediately. Derek's house. I checked Derek's location. Through our business tracking app we'd installed it for coordinating site visits. He was marked as working from home. Michelle was at her job downtown. I'd seen her LinkedIn post about a presentation she was giving that afternoon. My hands were shaking as I drove. I'd told Derek I wouldn't be back until Friday. Had checked into a hotel near the property site. Instead, I'd wrapped up early and was heading home. Now I was rerouting to his house. I parked down the street and walked to his door. Both their cars were in the driveway, hers behind. His in a way that suggested she'd arrived after him, planned to leave first. The position of the cars told me this wasn't the first time. I still had a key to Derek's house from years ago when we'd exchanged keys for emergencies. My hand hesitated at the lock. Part of me wanted to be wrong, wanted there to be some innocent explanation. I opened the door quietly. I heard them before I saw them. Vanessa's laugh. The one I'd fallen in love with 12 years ago, coming from upstairs. Derek's voice saying something I couldn't make out, followed by more laughter. I stood in his foyer, my entire world rearranging itself around this moment. I didn't go upstairs. I didn't confront them. Instead, I walked back out, got in my car, and drove to a parking lot where I sat for 2 hours trying to process what I knew but hadn't witnessed directly. That night, I acted normal. Vanessa asked about my trip. I said it went well, shared details about the property. She smiled, kissed my cheek, asked if I wanted to watch a movie. We sat on our couch like we had 1,000 times, and I studied her face looking for signs of guilt. There were none. The next 3 weeks were the longest of my life. I became a detective in my own life, gathering evidence with cold precision. I installed security cameras in our home. Told Vanessa it was because of a neighborhood break-in. I backed up her phone to our shared cloud account while she slept. I reviewed our credit card statements, looking for charges I hadn't noticed. Hotel rooms Derek had expensed to the business on days I was traveling. Restaurants in cities where we supposedly had separate meetings. I consulted a divorce attorney without telling anyone. I met with our business attorney about partnership dissolution procedures. I reviewed every clause in our operating agreement, looking for leverage. The evidence painted a devastating picture. Text messages between them going back 8 months. Not just an affair, they were in love, or at least convincing themselves they were. Worse, they were planning. Discussions about how to restructure the business so Derek could buy me out at a reduced valuation. Conversations about properties they wanted to acquire together after I was gone. Plans for their future that involved erasing me from both the personal and professional aspects of their lives. One message from Derek stopped my heart. Once we get through the restructuring and Trevor accepts the buyout, we can finally be together openly. Michelle suspects something but has no proof. Just a few more months. Vanessa's response. I hate lying to him, but he's so focused on work he barely notices I exist anymore. You see me in ways he stopped seeing years ago. I wanted to break things. Instead, I planned. I documented everything. Screenshots, GPS logs, copies of business documents showing Derek's manipulation of company finances. I discovered he'd been paying himself unauthorized bonuses, routing them through accounts I didn't regularly monitor. Not enough to trigger concern, but over 18 months. He'd taken nearly $200,000. I also discovered the buyout he was proposing would have valued my half of the business at $2 million less than its true worth. He'd been preparing to rob me of both my marriage and my life's work. On January 15th, I made my move. I'd scheduled a meeting with our biggest investor, told Derek it was routine portfolio review. Instead, I'd invited our business attorney, my divorce lawyer, and a forensic accountant. I presented everything. The affair, documented with date-stamped evidence. The financial irregularities, proven through bank records. The planned buyout scheme, shown through their own text messages, discussing how to undervalue certain properties. Derek's face went white. He tried to deny it, then minimize it, then justify it. Our investor sat in silence, reviewing the documents. Derek's face went white. He tried to deny it, then minimize it, then justify it. Our investor sat in silence, reviewing the documents. The outcome was swift. Derek was given a choice. Accept an immediate buyout at fair market value for his share, minus the money he'd stolen and legal fees, or face a lawsuit that would destroy him financially and professionally. He'd be lucky to walk away with $1 million from a business worth $8 million. He signed the papers that afternoon. Vanessa received divorce papers the same day. I'd moved my essential belongings out that morning while she was at the gym, the real gym this time. I'd checked. In the filing, I cited adultery, included enough evidence to ensure a favorable settlement, and requested she vacate our home within 30 days. The confrontation with Vanessa happened that evening. She came home to find me sitting in our living room with packed boxes, labeled for storage. She knew immediately. Trevor, I can explain. You can't, I said quietly. I know everything. How long, who with, what you were planning. I don't need explanations. I need you to sign the papers my attorney will deliver tomorrow and move out. She cried. She apologized. She said it started as emotional support when Derek was having marriage problems, that it wasn't supposed to happen, that she still loved me. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just said, you and Derek systematically planned to take everything from me. My marriage, my business, my financial security. You didn't just betray me, you tried to destroy me. I'm simply returning the favor. The divorce was finalized in 4 months because of the documented adultery and the evidence of planning against my financial interests. The settlement heavily favored me. Vanessa received minimal assets and no alimony. Derek's buyout left him with barely enough to start over. Our investor made clear that Derek's reputation in the commercial real estate community was finished. Word spreads fast in tight professional circles. Michelle divorced Derek 3 months after the truth came out. Last I heard, he moved to another state, working for a property management company making a fraction of what he'd earned as a partner. Vanessa tried to reach out several times in the months after, wanting closure, wanting me to understand her perspective. I never responded. Some betrayals are so complete that no explanation matters. The business is thriving without Derek. I brought in a new partner, someone I've known for years through industry connections. We've doubled our portfolio value in 18 months. I'm rebuilding my life on foundations that proved to be fraudulent. And this time I'm more careful about who I trust. What I learned is that betrayal rarely happens overnight. It's built in small compromises, hidden in reasonable excuses, camouflaged in everyday routines. The people capable of betraying you most completely are the ones who know you well enough to hide in plain sight. My wife and my best friend didn't just cheat. They built an alternate reality where I was the obstacle to their happiness, where my trust was a weakness to exploit, where everything I'd built was theirs to take. They were wrong. Sometimes justice isn't about dramatic confrontations or public exposure. It's about cold, careful documentation and strategic action. It's about protecting yourself while they're still convinced you're clueless. If you're watching this and something feels off in your relationship or business partnership, trust that instinct. Verify before confronting. Document before acting. Protect yourself first. And remember the people planning your downfall rarely expect you to be planning their consequences. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, subscribe for more true accounts of betrayal and justice. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and share your thoughts on how you would have handled this situation.